Hello there and good morning. Welcome to my first ever live video that I have done on YouTube. I have been putting videos out pretty consistently on my YouTube channel, but this is my first live. So I'm super excited to be here with you this morning. My name is Stacey Russell. I am your Northwest Houston realtor, educating buyers, sellers, and investors on all things real estate. And one of the things that we are going to talk about today, the main thing that we're going to talk about, is how to protest your property taxes. This is something that I actually gave a presentation on at the beginning of May to people in my neighborhood. And I think it's just super important for people to understand through having conversations with people. It's been very interesting to hear what people think when it comes to the appraisal district, what people don't know, and actually how many people don't have their homestead exemption applied. And so I've given this presentation in person. I've been having conversations with people, and I also have the video on my YouTube channel, but this is kind of like my last push to help people understand how to protest their property taxes because the deadline to file is coming up very soon. I believe the deadline for Montgomery County has already passed, but so this is going to be specifically for Harris County, which is the county that I actually live in, and the deadline for that is the 20th, which is on Monday, or on your notice of appraised value that you should have gotten in the mail, you should have a date, and it should be 30 days from the date that that was mailed to you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I love to connect and talk with you and help educate you on this. But the one thing that I do want to say to you, I'm kind of reading off of my slides over here, is that I am not a property tax expert, okay? Just to let you guys know that. I have learned a lot about property taxes through being in real estate. I've been a realtor for 3 years now, and I am a former teacher turned realtor. And so I love to educate people, but I am a realtor, so it's very important for realtors to stay in their lane. I can give you the information, but if you have any additional questions, you may want to seek guidance from a property tax attorney or lawyer or any of the firms that do property tax protests that can help you out. All right, so this is going to be just a very basic overview of what you need to do in order to file your property tax protest. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So around April every year, you should get a letter in the mail that is called your notice of appraised value for the current year. Okay, and that letter is going to have some information on it. The important information on there is going to be your current year's appraised value and your current year's market value. And depending on when you bought your home, those numbers could be the same or they could be completely different. It also depends on if you have your homestead exemption applied to your account as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. It's also going to have your hcad.org/iFile. That's how you're actually going to go and file your property tax protest. And then on that letter, it's also going to have your iFile number so that you're going to be able to have a number associated with your account to be able to file your property tax protest. And then, like I said earlier in this video, your protest for Harris County specifically says May 20th or 30 days after your notice of appraised value was mailed to you. Whichever date is later is the date that is your deadline to protest. All right, so let's talk about some things to remember about the appraisal district. And this is where I feel like we have a lot of miscommunication, misconceptions about what the appraisal district actually does, okay? So the appraisal district actually does not know what your home sold for. Texas is a non-disclosure state. So the appraisal district is going to try to get that information from you. They are going to, after you close on the sale of your home, you're going to get a ton of letters in the mail saying, hey, let us know how much you paid for your home. And some people will fill that information out. As a realtor, I am really big on protecting my clients and helping them understand that Texas is a non-disclosure state. So I let them know to just throw that stuff in the trash. They do not even need to fill it out. That is not something that the appraisal district needs to know, because as soon as they find out how much you paid for your home, that is where they are going to jack your market value up, and that's what you're going to be taxed on. So they don't need to know that information, and they're not allowed to really know that information unless you give them that information specifically. The appraisal district also does not know what the inside of your home looks like. They can take a look at the outside. They're going to know if you have a pool or if you've built anything else, whether it's been a permit through the city or maybe you didn't permit it through the city, they do have ways of getting the information of what the exterior of your home looks like. So they can see all that information, but they have no idea if you have made any kind of improvements or repairs to your property or updates or a complete remodel. They don't know that information. And so we don't want to really necessarily tell them any of that information, because when it comes to protesting your taxes, I want you to have the mindset of your home is the worst home on the block. Okay. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. Market value and appraised value is actually based off of comparable properties and what the median sold price of those properties is. So once again, they don't know the sold price information, but they do use their best judgment to try to guesstimate in the current market what those homes should have sold for or could have sold for. And then they are taking that into consideration when they are finding the market and appraised value of your home. When it comes to protesting your taxes, like I said, you have the worst home on the block. So we're going to talk about how to make sure that you can convey that to the appraisal review board. And then not all property protests are going to lead to a decrease in taxes. And I think this is really important for you to know. When we do have certain markets where you're seeing rapid appreciation like we did in like 2021, 2022, when the home prices were just going out of control, those weren't necessarily the best years to try to protest your property taxes. However, this is a great year to try to protest your property taxes. But I always do like to tell people that even if you protest, whether you do it by yourself or with the help of a firm who you can pay to help do that for you, you may not see much of a reduction or a reduction at all in the sold price. Or sorry, not the sold price, but in the property taxes. All right, so we're going to talk about how to protest first. All right, so our first step that we're going to do is really reach out to a realtor. They can do this for you for free. You can also do it, but it's just going to be a little bit more work on your end. So what we do is we want to find sold comparable properties. And when we talk about comparable properties, we need to know what that actually means, right? Because if I live in a one-story home that's 1,600 square feet and doesn't have a pool in the backyard, and I'm looking at my neighbor's house that is a two-story, 3,000 square foot home that does have a pool in the backyard, those are not comparable properties. And so what that home is being taxed is going to be very different from what I am being taxed, okay? So I very much pride myself on being able to help people understand how to, whether it's like pricing homes or just understanding what a home could sell for or is worth in the current market. That is something that I really enjoy doing, is pricing correctly. And so really finding a sold comparable property is looking at an apples to apples comparison. So as similar as possible of the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, the square footage and lot size. And I really like to give a range of like plus or minus 10% of each of those. The year built, giving a 10-year span. Okay, so if your home was built in 1990, you would go back 5 years to 1985, and you go forward 5 years to 1995. So you got the 10-year gap right there. And then it does really need to be neighborhood specific, because as you guys know, moving from neighborhood to neighborhood, the home prices are completely different. And even the homes in general are just completely different. So it really does need to be neighborhood specific. And once again, they are looking for homes that sold, okay? Not that were listed and didn't sell, not that are currently under contract, none of that. And they're looking at sold data from the previous year, okay? So that's what's considered a comp. And once again, very important for you to know that a realtor can do this for you for absolutely free. It does not take us a ton of time to do. It's very helpful for us to know all of that information. You know, if you have a pool, if you don't have a pool, anything that kind of makes your home a little bit more special or just different from other homes in your area, that's always going to help us price a little bit more accurately. So once I plug all of that information into the MLS, then I'm able to see what the comps are. And typically I can find, you really want at least 3, but on all of the ones that I've been able to help people with this year, I was actually able to find about 5, sometimes a little bit more, okay? So you really want at least 3. Great if you can have more, but what you're gonna have there is you're gonna have your list. We call it a comparative market analysis, and this is where you're gonna get your comps. And you're going to have your list of your comparable properties that are very, very similar to yours. And you're going to be able to see the sold price of those homes. Once again, very important to know, The appraisal district does not need to know that information. Texas is a non-disclosure state. Do not tell them how much a home sold for, okay? But you can have access to that because we are pricing your home and understanding what your home is worth compared to other homes that sold the previous year. So we're going to take those comps and we are going to go to the Harris County Appraisal District website. And on that website, there is a way that you can go to a property search and you can type the address in. I would recommend just doing the number and then like the first part of the address, because when you start getting into like lane or drive or any of that, it says it can't pull it up. I don't know why it does that. But just type in the number and then the first part of the address and it'll drop down and you'll be able to click on it. So you're going to do that for every single comp. And when you go into the Appraisal District website, you're going to be able to see that the current market and appraised value for the current year. And then Harris County has kind of revised their website to where you can also do a drop down and see kind of like a side-by-side comparison of the previous year as well. Okay. So you're going to be able to pull that information. I like to put this information into a spreadsheet so that I can keep it all straight. So comp number 1, market value for 2023, market value or appraised value for 2023, market value 2024, appraised value for 2024. Comp 2, doing the exact same thing, okay? And then I also like to note on there if they have any exemptions applied, you are able to see that. It's public information. And it's shocking to me the number of people who don't have their homestead exemption. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a bit. So really just trying to create that spreadsheet of property tax information on the comparable property so that you can see what the appraisal district is charging them based off of the tax rate. Okay. Then your next step is going to be to look at those numbers compared to your home. And once again, like I said before, it's going to depend how long you've been in your home. For instance, my husband and I have been in our home for 10 years. We actually did not have homestead exemption applied to our property for a very long time. And when I got into real estate, it just clicked to me like, oh my gosh, we actually need to do this. Like I had heard about it, but I was a teacher and I didn't really know the importance of it. And I really wish that I would have put our homestead exemption on our account when we first moved in 10 years ago, because, you know, without the homestead exemption, there is no cap on how much the appraisal district is able to tax you year over year. And so our taxes increased significantly for a very long time before we actually applied our homestead exemption. So, you know, keeping note of that and making sure that you're not being taxed too much. Okay. So for instance, looking at my information compared to others, my market value for 2023 actually for 2024 actually went down $3,000 from the previous year, but my appraised value increased about $25,000. Okay. When you have homestead exemption applied, they are taxing you on your appraised value of your home. Okay. So my appraised value and my market value are very different, but sometimes they'll be the same. All right. Let's go to our next step. Next step is to actually file your protest. So if you have done the data and the research and you see that there is a clear difference between what you are being charged on your taxes and what other homes are being charged for their taxes, then you need to go ahead and file a protest. And it's very easy to do. You can actually do this. I think it takes like 5 minutes to do. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to hcad.org/ifile. If you have never logged into their website before, you're going to have to create a username and a password. And then you're going to click on I file protest. There is an option whenever I'm kind of like walking you through the steps of actually going through their website, but there is an option to click on I settle. I don't recommend this. Basically, it is a way for it to be a very easy process. And basically they're trying to get you to input the amount that you think that your home is worth, which is almost kind of a trick, right? Because most people want to say that their home is expensive. But once again, you have to remember that when you are protesting your property taxes, you have the worst home on the block. So you don't want to be taxed on the amount that you think your home is worth. And everybody thinks their home is worth a lot or more. But you really want to make sure that you're just not giving them any information about what your home is worth or what you think it's worth. Okay. So I don't recommend the I settle option. I would just skip past that. Then it's going to ask you what your reason for your protest is. So I don't want you to enter the sales price. Okay. There are several places here where they're going to try to get that information from you. And if you scroll down for your reason of protest, there is a part that says enter the sales price of what you paid for your home if it's sold within the past 2 years. Don't do it. It's a trick. Don't do it. Okay. But reason for protest is typically going to be that your market value is over what you think it needs to be. Okay. There are other options, and I'll kind of walk you through that in a second. But you're going to also choose once you select your reason for your protest, you're going to choose how you would like to meet the appraisal review board panel. And they have a couple of different options. You can meet virtually, you can meet in person with the full 3-panel review board, or you can meet in person with one person from the single panel review board. Then you're going to schedule your actual hearing, whether that be online or in person, and then submit your protest and select a reminder method. So they can remind you through email or text message. You just have to give them your cell phone number, and then you'll have to verify it. And then the appraisal review board is going to notify you at least 15 days before the date of your hearing. So they're going to give you that information. Okay. So that's really like the first step is getting the information and the data and finding out if you actually have a case to protest your property taxes. The second step is actually filing the protest. Okay. So after you have filed your protest, okay, let me scroll down in my notes a little bit here. But after you have filed your protest, you're going to want to start to gather documents and data. Okay. So anything that you can prove to the appraisal review board that your home is not going to sell for anything close to what the home's previously sold for, you're going to want to put into this folder, okay, or file, whatever you want to call it. So like, for instance, my home is an older home. Okay, it was built in the 70s. And so we have a lot of things that we haven't repaired on our home. We don't have double pane windows, where some of these homes that sold do have double pane windows. We have some settlement that's happening in Houston. We just have, unfortunately, we got expansive soils that like to move around a little bit. And so we have some settling. So you want to take pictures of any cracks that you have of sheetrock, any repairs that need to be made. If there's something that is not working properly, okay, take pictures of it. So anything and everything that you can think of, siding, roofing, anything like that that is structural, make sure that you are taking pictures of. And then even better, if you can actually get contractors out to give you an estimate, okay, you don't have to do the work, but at least give you an estimate on how much it would cost for you to make these repairs. That is also going to really help you with your case, okay, because then they've actually see a number with that. So you're going to want to make sure that you have all of that information included in your file, and make sure that you read the appraisal review board rules and regulations, because depending on how you are meeting with the appraisal review board, sometimes they do want you to bring copies for every single person. So sometimes it could be 6 copies, sometimes it could be 3. So you're just going to really want to read over the rules and make sure that you understand what you need to bring for your hearing to be successful. Okay. Okay. Let me scroll down just a little bit more here. All right. Things to know about your actual protest. Okay, so when you actually go for your protest, you need to know that hearings are open to the public. So it may not just be you and the appraisal review board, or one person from the appraisal review board. There may be other people in there with you. So just know to expect that it is open to the public. I'm always going to tell people to be nice to the appraisers. Okay, they're human too. This is their job. There are going to be a ton of people who are trying to protest their property taxes. And so you're going to catch more flies with honey than you are with anything else. So just make sure that you're being nice to them. And remember that you're trying to make a case for yourself. So nobody ever did anything nice for somebody else when they feel attacked. So be nice. Provide copies of your documentation. Like I said earlier, you really just need to make sure that you're reading the appraisal review board rules and regulations and what they need you to bring for them, so that it's a smooth and easy process. Okay. Stick to the facts and don't be emotional. Okay. So really, they just want to know why you think that you need to lower your property taxes. That's all they need to know. So it's not emotional. more than likely they're going to give you something, I would think. It doesn't always happen, but if you can stick to the facts and give them solid proof of why you think your home needs to be, significantly reduced, I think that they would at least hear you out. And then obviously just thank them for their time whenever you're done. All right, so filing your homestead exemption, just a couple of things that I found very interesting. When I did my search for my comparative market analysis to find comparable homes, I had 6 comparable homes that had sold in the previous year that were similar to mine, and 4 of them did not have homestead exemption, okay? It is really important for you to remind your family and your friends and your neighbors how important having a homestead exemption is. That homestead exemption is only going to be applied to primary residences. So if you live in a community where there are a lot of investment properties going up, unfortunately for them, their property taxes are going to continue to increase because there's no cap on how much they can be taxed in a year, but it directly impacts you as a property owner if that home is a comp to your home, if that makes sense. So your property value will also go up. However, if you have your homestead exemption applied, there is a cap on how much they are able to tax you. All right. So let me know what questions you have. I did want to show one example, tell you one example that I found the other day. So I had a friend reach out to me and she asked me to run some comps on her home because her property taxes have just started getting a little bit out of control. And so she lives in the Northampton community over by Klein Oak High School. So I'm doing this live stream for people in Harris County, so I'm getting very specific to local areas. But the people of Northampton, I really encourage you guys to go and take a look at what you're being taxed because I have never seen this before, okay? I ran the comps and noticed when I went to the appraisal district and typed the property addresses in that some of these homes in the Northampton community were being had a market value and appraised value $100,000 to $200,000 over what the home sold for, which is insane. That means that they are being taxed way too much. And so that's really important. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that the appraisal district is going to do anything about it if it's coming from somebody other than the property owner. So it's going to be really important for you to take a look and check and make sure that you're not being taxed too much. And remember that it's not what your home could sell for. It is something that, if your home did sell, it shouldn't ever be like way over what your home sold for. So for instance, I did have a property in that search. Let's just say it sold for $350,000. It's being taxed at almost $500,000 market value, which is just insane. So do your due diligence because this is how our mortgage payments go up significantly. And there's some people who are being taxed out of their home, which is really unfortunate. But just know that you have control over this. Some control, right? I don't want to say you have all the control, but you have some control over this. So it's just your responsibility to make sure that you're doing your due diligence, you're checking in on this information and making sure that you are saving yourself as much money as possible through taxes every single year. So let me know what questions you have. Remember that the deadline to file is going to be on May 20th or the 30 days after your letter of notice of appraised value was mailed to you. So just make sure you check that. If you have any questions about this, please reach out. I'm more than happy to answer for you. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. I know Houston had some bad weather yesterday. Hopefully everybody is safe out there. But yeah, have a great weekend and I will see you guys later.